Hi, this is John Ondo for Marketing Media and Cupcakes. And before we get into today's episode, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. We're back after being gone for over 4.5 years. And I hope you get a chance to listen to episode 77, where we explain why we were gone for so long and that we're back for at least 3 more episodes. Angel and I are big supporters of entrepreneurship, and we love small businesses and faith-based businesses. And we just want to encourage you through our podcast each week. What's going to determine if we continue with more episodes will be the response. Subscribe to us on your platform. Send us an email at john@ondomedia.com. That would help us know you're listening and you want more episodes. So thank you so much, and let's get into today's episode. It's okay. She's just having a moment. She's all choked up by this amazing thing.
No, I don't want to clear my throat on air. That's
gross.
gross.
You don't want to hack and spit on air.
Well, no.
They teach you that in broadcast school, but anyway.
This is the small business podcast that is sweeter than all the rest. Marketing, media, and cupcakes.
This is episode 4, and I am John, and joined by my wife, Angel. How are you doing today?
I'm super.
We just had a holiday weekend, so we got away a little bit and visited some friends and visited some places, both with media and with cupcakes. And I'm a television producer, director, filmmaker kind of guy, and my wife, in addition to doing customer service as her full-time job, she also does cupcakes and has a cupcake business. And you got to visit a little cupcake shop back in my hometown this week, and kind of had some fun with that, because you get all excited when we get to visit cupcake shops.
Yes, I do. This one in particular was pretty exciting because she started off kind of like where I'm at, in the sense of she started off selling her cupcakes kind of she did it out of her home. She had a full-time job.
She was a teacher, right?
She was a teacher, and I still haven't watched her video blog, but she had a video about how she basically went from doing this part-time as just kind of a side thing to making that decision to leap in. And now she has had a actual physical space for 3 years and is doing really well, selling to local restaurants, making their desserts, plus has the shop that's connected directly to a coffee shop. So it's
nice place.
Very, very well appointed, perfect, not huge. Everything. She and I got to have a 10-minute conversation, which was awesome, because she was, the things that I've always questioned whether or not I was doing properly. The other bakeries I've gone to have usually been somebody who's classically trained or has gone to school, and she's just like me. She's a home baker. I made a comment I said, gosh, a lot of my recipes come from Pinterest. She's like, oh, that's where mine come from too. So it made me feel better.
It's I guess the thing I think of this, and again, we're kind of a small business podcast, and we are not multi-millionaire small business people. We are just on the journey. I've been in my small business for about 10 years. She's been doing it more casual, but now seriously for about 2 years now, and our journey here, and as you listen to our podcast, we're going to be having guests on in future episodes. I'm real excited to have my friend Bill Harris on. He's going to be talking about different things with working with people and relationships, and we're going to have other folks on who have small businesses that we're familiar with, and talking about vision and profits and all that fun stuff too. But just to give you some background, one of the things I'm always amazed with small business, and I don't know if you're like this since you've been getting into this, I see somebody like a cupcake shop now, completely different business than what I do with video production, which is basically I have a lot of expensive equipment I've purchased or I can rent, but for the most part people are paying me to go do something, and I know, even though I deal with big numbers, sometimes when people go, oh my gosh, it's $1,000 a day or $2,000, for this and that, they think it's big numbers. But when you really add up the amount of time goes into a project, it really is like in most businesses. I'm just like a lot of people. Cash flow is going in and coming out, and I sit back and say, where's all the money at? So when I see a cupcake business and I think, how on earth do you make money at $1.25 a cupcake or $2.25 a cupcake? For me, okay, this project's going to be $5,000. It'll take a month, but it's $5,000. But I think, how do you make up? Does that not throw you, or do you just get this?
Honestly, it does throw me, because when I was talking to her and looking at her price points, now she's in a small town where this particular type of business doesn't exist.
Yeah.
They don't have a cupcake store or bakery, if you will, and
God bless small town America, because that's beautiful.
On every corner, as we do here in Columbus, Ohio. Every time you turn around, somebody's opening another shop. There's some other, gotta have
organic
whatever
seal oil free cupcake business or something.
Not necessarily that, but
you should think about that.
There's always something new, and so it makes it harder to penetrate the market when you're somebody doing home based, and then you feel, is what I'm doing worth it? Because I don't have, so how can I, my little angel, charge what, let's say, not even a competitor, but a big everywhere of the country, Gigi's Cupcakes. Yeah. How can I charge what she charges, or what's fair? And then you start talking, as you and I were talking about yesterday, perceived value. Yeah. It's, mine's homemade. I can tell you exactly what's in it. I don't know that, that business can. They probably can, but to what degree? I don't have a staff. I don't have this and that. But then John always has to remind me, you do have costs involved, outside of your ingredients. There's the electricity to run the ovens. There's all the little things that I use to make, make them, plus my time.
Right.
And so just because I don't have a staff of 18 or 25 people doesn't mean that, I should charge less. But at the same time, it's the comment that I remember, one of the few things from my degree at Ohio State University is yes, is what will the market bear? So it's right. Like she's charging what I was like, I can't believe she's charging that. That seems like not enough for what she had, and yet they don't have anything like that. So, she can't come out and start charging like Gigi's, although maybe she could, but she's doing very well at charging these lower prices.
It is in the smaller town. I'm sure the cost of rent, the cost of insurance, the cost of things are lower than what they are in a larger city. So, I just think of the fact that if I work from my home, I have no reason to work from a storefront or anything, because I edit, and then when I go shoot, I typically go on location. So if I need a studio, I rent it. So the cost for me to rent an office space, for $1,000 a month is to me ridiculous, and I have to pass it on to my clients. So that to me is part of the, again, perceived value. And we're going to talk about that, is the fact that, I really could be cost effective, but on the flip side, you're also paying for me. And that's probably where we can kind of get into this whole perceived value thing. The first time I'd ever heard the word perceived value was back when I worked with an organization about, 12, 13 years ago. And part of what they did as a nonprofit is they produced video DVDs and different informational things. And they were typically thank you gifts to donors. And, and it was one of those things where different consultants came in and out of this place. And, they were sending these DVDs that we were producing that were, I think, pretty high quality, out to people. And they were just in a little white wrapper like you can buy, at your Office Max. You can see it in Office Space. But, white label Arial text, and that was it. And, and they just thought this was dandy because they had no money invested in the packaging of it. And what they discovered when somebody came in and tried to figure out what was going wrong with everything, they said, well, you're not getting any return sales, because people buy the DVD and they think, this is garbage. The video content was fine on the inside, but it was just like, you gave me this little white thing and whatever, and I gave you a donation. And they would start talking about perceived value. And that's where we decided, when you looked at it, everybody said, well, because it's going to cost too much. He says, wait a minute, take a look at this. A package for a DVD costs maybe 80 cents. And then the printing is almost nothing. They had printing facilities. You just have to have some labor to put those things in there sometimes. And so that was an important lesson I learned when I started creating my own DVDs, and I've done some documentaries, and I was using them as fundraisers, that I wasn't just going to mail these, and people were paying $30 for this DVD. It was a special DVD that was a fundraiser, but I didn't want them to get it in a white, see-through little DVD package. I did the artwork, made it look, the DVD was printed so it looked just like your DVD you'd get, you remember DVDs, right? And Blu-rays, it had the artwork on it, had the logos on it, had all of the, the little, different things about the format and all that you would see in a DVD. And then it had a DVD case, and the same thing, had the artwork, it had, this is a special edition and all those things, which it was. So, and one of the things I remember when I started mailing those out and we had pre-orders, people came back and like, we were really impressed. This was like, we didn't think it was going to come in all this for the price. Cause, and it really lent to the fact people thought I got a value out of this. I got something very special. And the truth to me, for the $30 DVD, it really only cost $1 to do that packaging. And it didn't take a whole lot. It took a little bit of time, but it didn't take a whole lot of money to do that. So, to me, again, that's what I call perceived value. When you get you pay $30 for something and it comes in a white thing with no artwork or anything versus something that comes in a real case or a jewel case or whatever it might be. I know I ordered I have these coffee mugs that look like DSLR lenses, and they came and they had little like post-it notes written, and they were handwritten by the people, like, thank you for ordering this or whatever. And I thought, again, that's like, wow, that's nice. That's the perceived value of the fact that, you took the time to write this, put it on the box. It tells me probably it's not cracked or anything because you took the time to look at the box or things like that. I don't know. That's perceived value, where you pay $15 for something and you feel like you got a $16 product. In all reality, we didn't have to put that much money into it, but you feel like it's got more. So, that was one of the things when Angel started her cupcake business. And we've got the full business. And it took us a while, like everybody does with the business. We struggle with what's the name going to be? Can we get a domain? Can we do all this kind of stuff? But then creating the logos. And what was some of the things, when we started kind of talking about this and the boxing and how you put, the cupcakes are great, but there is a thing about when you give them that package,
Yeah. So I think, again, I struggled a little bit because I kept getting different opinions from different people about how they should be packaged. So there's cardboard boxes, which a lot of the places use, and then there are some that use plastic containers, kind of, like what you would see at Giant Eagle or Meijer or whatever, with, the little 12 minis or the bigger ones. And I've had, the boxes seem to be a little bit more high end. It's, you've got labeling and things like that. But then at the same time, the boxes don't offer you the storage, if you will, the kind of I don't want to say airtight, but more airtight seal that keeps the product fresher versus being in a box.
So when you have the box, you have like 4 cupcakes, and because there's like that little circle things that you put the cupcakes in, there's more wasted space, if you will, and it's got more air therefore. But it makes sense you would see at retail the clear plastic things because you need to see them versus when you go to a cupcake shop and they're in the display case and then you pick them out like a donut and put them in the box. That's probably why there's a difference there, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think, and that's probably a very good point that, you're going to take them with you and assumably go either put them out or eat them. Whereas, like the one thing that I bought, which I just couldn't believe she was selling them for, she had basically a sampler pack, 12 cupcakes, 2 of 6 different flavors, which I guess these 6 were her most popular. They had just copious amounts of, toppings and just the way it looked. And she was selling them for $12. And it was literally $1 a mini. And I was blown away by how inexpensive that dozen of, cupcakes were, because something similar at a very well-known cupcake shop that has 5 or 10 different locations here in the Columbus area, that same box would have cost $20 and wouldn't have had maybe nearly the type of design to it. So I was just like, oh my gosh. So then of course I start questioning my own pricing and how I'm doing my minis, and oh gosh, I need to change. But that's all my own personal insecurities. But again, it was that plastic container allowed those cupcakes to be made and sat out and somebody could just walk in and pick it up. Whereas the display case, you're going to pick out your 4 dozen, your dozen or whatever you're doing. And the assumption is you're going to take them home and eat them. So packaging is definitely for me, because I have to make my stuff ahead of time. Right. I'm not a bakery. I can't have it sitting out. So I do have to use more of the plastic than the paper, but bigger orders, I will use larger boxes simply to accommodate. And quite frankly, because I hate handing someone 10 of these little boxes knowing they're going to get thrown away, even though they're recyclable, when I can put them all in one giant box and hand it to them.
Well,
So
and that goes to, and the only illustration I can think of is, and if those of you who know me, I'm an Apple guy. Am I happy with everything Apple's been doing in the last few years? Not as much, but it's still better than anything out there. And I was a big fan of Steve Jobs. He had his issues, but the guy had probably one of the greatest concepts with perceived value, and you see that with Apple. And you go to an Apple store, and it's touch and feel. The place is all about the product. And it's made to be touched. And then the thing that I know they talked about in if anybody's ever owned any kind of Apple product, regardless if it's if it's the $20 adapter or if it's a $5,000 iMac Pro, and I have both. And he talked about when you unbox any Apple product, it's like opening a diamond ring. He wanted that effect that, when you open it up, it has that intentional design that you go, and it does that. And the boxes are very, I would say very expensive, but I'm sure if we had any of the Apple team here, they said, not really compared to the $5,000 computer you bought. The box cost us $10 or something, because they understood the fact that when you buy any kind of Apple product, you are paying more, and I'll go head to head with anybody to tell you the quality's worth it. But the whole point was they wanted you to feel like you weren't getting in some crappy little box. It's a good box, and you have that moment, which I think is what you do with your cupcakes. You want that, it's got a logo on it like yours or somebody else's, cupcake shop or a donut shop. You have that moment, you open that box, you go, oh my gosh. And I do think the plastic ones, which are great and they work fine, but they don't have that aha moment. And that's one of the things I've encouraged Angel with, and it's kind of funny how we work with different businesses, but we encourage each other all the time, is that people are buying they're buying her cupcakes because they're custom, and they're asking, hey, can you do a red velvet with this and that? And she's making these incredible tasting cupcakes, but it's the experience too. It's like, oh wow, I got this it's a custom cupcake. It's not something I could have bought in a store necessarily. And I think that is part of what the experience is, because we were talking about, some of these graduation cakes you were making, big cakes, and it's like, they want to have you make these cakes. And both Angel and I suffer from the same dementia or whatever, that we believe we charge too much. It's a horrible thing for a business person to think that, but I know, and this is why we would love to have your comments on marketing, media, and cupcakes. If you're a small business person or you work in a creative field, and I believe she bakes, and it's a creative field. Everything she does is creative, so it's a personal thing. When you put a video together, a cupcake together, and you feel like, can I really charge this for this? There's no real expense that I had other than my time, but my time is valuable. So we'd love to have your comments. Right now, we're using my email, John, John, at ondomedia.com, if you want to give us some comments, or if you want to comment on Facebook or on our Instagram page. But we'd love to have those of you who have small businesses, you're struggling with pricing, you're struggling with these things, that tell us what you're dealing with things, and we can also encourage you as well. But the perceived value of the packaging, I think, is very important. And if you're somebody who's like, I don't want to spend an additional such and such. Well, again, if you watch any of the main shows, like where we've watched Bar Rescue many times, he talks about perceived value. John Taffer all the time. It's like, if you do this, you can you put this plate, you put it on a bigger plate, even though it's the same sandwich. If you put it on a bigger plate, it feels like it's a bigger meal, therefore you can charge $10 more. And you think, that's crazy, but it's true, because we do that all the time. When we go out to eat, we see, oh, look at this big plate, it must be more expensive. And that's perceived value. So don't cut that short. If you're somebody in a business right now and you're thinking, I'm really having a struggle making my money, then maybe investing a little bit more in the packaging. And if the product is good, if your product sucks, that's a whole nother issue, but I'm trusting your product is good. The packaging can make a difference with this. So we did the logos. You proudly put your logos on all your stuff, and it looks good. And people, you can tell, they don't feel like they're buying from a home bakery. They feel like they're buying from a specialty
Yes, they
place.
do. I had made a couple of my own T-shirts with the help of John to have for an event that I did back in April, and I've wear them out. And I've had a few people that have had the courage to ask. They're like, is that yours, or is that a place? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, this is my business, but I work out of my home. And they're like, oh, that's really cool. Do you have a card? And so, and even John, has made special cards for me so that they're a little unique, so that people kind of remember them. I mean, again, have I gone out there and tried to push this that hard? No. So I haven't gotten a ton of business from these things, but at the same time, it's the business is there. I have, I didn't think I was going to have any orders in July. And then a friend of mine reached out, who I did a cake for now. I think it's been at least 4 years ago. And she wants a new cake. And, my prices, I'm getting a little better at pricing and knowing what she's asking for and the amount of time it's going to take. I had to give her that, realistic price. And she was asking about, okay, well, is there a cheaper option or whatever? And I was kind of like, well, I can do this or that. And basically she came back, she's like, you know what? She's like, let's just go with this. It's, we don't do it too often, and we haven't bought a cake since we got the one you did the last time, which made me feel really good. But, that's where I have to stand firm. This is my time, and the amount of effort that it's going to take to make the product that I want to present is going to be worth every dime, and probably a little more than what I'm charging for.
And again, it's the experience, and the thing I encourage those of you who are listening, and maybe you're struggling with pricing, and you have whatever it is. I hope you enjoy doing it, and I hope you realize that's a gift that you have in your life. And so when somebody, in the case of Angels with her cupcakes, when they open that box and they go, oh my gosh, look at this, and it's a special birthday cake for their kid or something else, and they realize they spent maybe a little bit more, I don't think that much more, but to get a custom cake, that moment is what they pay for. The cake's going to be good, but that moment they get. So whatever it is you're making, if maybe you're a craftsman and you're doing chairs or furniture, or you're a photographer, and obviously you think, well, the pictures I took of your wedding are no different than the pictures I take of something else, but it's that moment you captured, you took the time, you photoshopped, that aha moment is what they're paying for. And let's face it, you put yourself in anybody else's shoes, that aha moment when somebody hands you the keys to your new car or something like that, you go, I'm really glad I paid for this because I got a great experience out of this. So we really do pay for experiences. One other quick thing I'm going to mention on this, because in our remaining moments, is the perceived value of your packaging is important. So, don't skimp on that. I really believe that you put some investment in that. But also the perceived value of the packaging, and this is where marketing, media, and cupcakes kind of wraps up in the one nice little package here, literally, is the marketing you do for yourself and the media you do for yourself online. Now, I'll just quickly run through, I had 35 years of experience when I started my own business. But, now Ondo Media launches, and who the heck are you? You're one of a million people. A lot of college kids are in the market. So one of the things I did very early in with one of my first projects I produced, and it was actually a project I did for free because I wanted to have something of significance to put on as a demo and on my websites and so forth that was 100% Ondo Media. I submitted it for what's called a Telly Award. It's a good award. It's not an Oscar. It's not an Emmy, but it's a very nice, prestigious award. I put it in multiple categories. I had to pay a few $100 to get the entrance, and I had to pay a couple $100 to get the actual award when I actually received it. But one of the big things I wanted to be able to do is say, Ondo Media has put out a press release. Ondo Media has received a Telly Award for such and such project. And then later on, a few years later, I then moved on to submitting them for Emmys, which I had been in Emmys before, but I hadn't had the Emmys are kind of a very specific kind of a thing you have to submit for with television. So, but I did, and then I received my first regional Emmy in 2013, and I've since received 3 more. You might say, well, that's really great, John. They recognized you, but I'll just be very direct with everybody. I submitted those for one big purpose. I wanted to be able to say we are an Emmy-winning organization, because I know my clients like going back to their bosses. Well, who's this Ondo Media you hired for our project? They've won 3 Emmys. They've won 4 Emmys. They've won a Telly Award. That's a huge difference than He's a guy who works out of his basement. So and really it is about perceived value. So a lot of people, and it's the same thing in Hollywood. Why does George Clooney get more money? He has Oscars, yes. Perceived value. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing, because you can put him in any crappy movie you want. But it's the perceived value. He's an Oscar winner, or he's an Emmy winner, or whatever it is. Yep. So for those of you who might say, well, how does this apply to me? Well, I've told Angel a few times, we need to figure out what contests or whatever we can get her cupcakes in so she can be a top 25. Now, I don't think she necessarily needs that, but it is nice to toot your horn and say she won best tasting cupcake out of such and such, or best red velvet, or whatever it is. Likewise, if you have an opportunity, if you got a food truck, or if you're a photographer, if you could submit for any kind of award, it just, again, gives the perceived value. You know you're good, but your clients don't know you're good. So this is a way for them to say, well, and let's face it, we all have thousands of people doing competition with us. We have young people and older people, people who maybe are more experienced. So what sets you apart? Well, the perceived value is, oh, hey, I won this food truck award last year, or my company's been in Columbus Business First top 25 AV companies. Now, we don't have the highest rating. We're not number one, but we're in the top 25. So I throw that out there. So when people are thinking, well, I could go with Joe Schmo here, who has nice stuff, looks just like me. He may be cheaper than me, but I can go with Ondo Media, who I know has 4 Emmys, 5 tellies, and all these kind of things. That makes a difference. So perceived value works in 2 ways. My kind of summary here is, for your products, how you package it, perceived value is important. You can ask for more money if you do it properly. And second, perceived value is important in your own marketing, how you package yourself. Get awards, get recommendations on your website. Those are huge. Anybody who can endorse you. If you've got the mayor of your town loves your cupcakes and he's allowed to endorse you, these are great cupcakes. We used them in our business meeting last week. That's nice. Anything works because people, let's face it, people want to be part of a winner. And that's the reason, I think it's just important for you to look like a winner. You are a winner. You may not think you are. I know I struggle with it all the time. We're very insecure people when you're creative, but you are a winner. So show people that, and people will be drawn to that. So any closing thoughts here as we're getting ready to kind of wrap things up?
No, I can't think of anything. I think you said it all.
So it's Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes. This is our 4th podcast. So if you're just getting on board with us, we're so glad to have you. Please share it with other people. We are on all the platforms now, and we're so glad to have you joining us. And we would love to have your comments, your questions. We've got some upcoming episodes with some guests as we kind of break out and start talking about more topics and more things. But we hope we're an encouragement to you, first of all, with your small business. And we want you to keep succeeding and realizing that life is short, so make the most of it. And thanks so much for joining us on Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes.
Connect with John and Angel via Facebook and Instagram, and let us know your thoughts. Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes is a production of Ondo Media.